Our next session is all about Nostradamus scenarios that could crash the industry. Okay, I hope you're ready for this. This is going to be an awesome panel. All killer, no filler, as my friend Jamison said. Right. I'm going to introduce all of our speakers one by one so you can give them all the respect and applause that they deserve. We're going to start by introducing our fabulous moderator. She is the founder and CEO of BeyondPlay. Please welcome to the stage, Karolina Pelc. Thank you. Awesome. Welcome, Karolina. We're going to move swiftly on with the CEO and founder of Betted Best, Nico Jansen. Welcome, Nico. That's it. Applause for everyone. And then we're going to welcome to the stage Senior Vice President of Games and Marketing at the BeyondPlay Network and Bspot.com. A huge round of applause, please, for Jamison Selby. Thank you. You've met him before. You're going to meet him again. He's an absolute legend of the industry. He is a partner at Princeton Public Affairs Group. A big round of applause, please, for Bill Pascrell III. Awesome, thank you. Great to see you, BP3. We're next going to welcome the Director of Casino Products at Relax Gaming. Please, big round of applause for Shelley Hannah. Yes, we've got some fans in the audience. I like it. Okay, and now a very big round of applause for the Director of Sales and Business Development at GIG. Please welcome Martin Collins. Awesome. Karolina, the stage is yours.
Cool, thank you for the introductions. My own introduction of this panel is that we had a prep call a couple of weeks ago, and my objective for the prep call was to figure out some structure and draw some conclusions. I drew one conclusion: you cannot enforce any structure on these people. So, we're going to go with the flow. When you have so many thought leaders and strong minds in the room, you just need to let them figure this out. So, before we get to the scenarios that could crush us in the future, to put things in perspective, I wanted to talk about what happened in the last couple of years. We had a pretty eventful time, I would say 4 or 5 years in the past. And if we were sitting at this panel now, I'm pretty sure not one of us would have come up with the scenarios that actually materialize. So I'm going to start off with Shelley to talk through some of these events that impacted us as an industry. Could we have seen them on the horizon at all? And could we have prepared for them better?
Well, Karolina, 4 or 5 years ago, I think most people were sat thinking about Sweden, really panicking over getting all technical readiness for the Sweden changes. And there, 2 years later, of course, we have COVID. And I think it really couldn't have been something, well, ask the audience, is that something you were thinking of 4 years ago? No, probably not, right? So we arrived at COVID and we had that roller coaster where sports betting became really, really challenging. Some other areas maybe a bit different, but nobody knew how to deal with it, and we had to just act and continue as best we can. And perhaps that was through M&As, stretching over to different verticals and other areas. And then I think even since then, we, have had the really sad news of the war. And, I think what we tend to do as human beings is out of sight, out of mind, right? So there is a war going on, the economy's changing, perhaps even the government's changing over towards, the conservative side, and our world is changing. So I think even on our doorstep, Karolina, we have many, many things that are hitting us already, and are we seeing those? Are they really right there in front of us?
I got to say, Shelley, you're a fast learner. Lots of functional gestures going on in your speech. All right, well, we don't want to talk about the things exactly on the horizon. We want to look at beyond there, now that we know that we couldn't have predicted some things. The panel was pretty, they had one view on what were the biggest things. But let's start with Martin. What is it that you'd say is the scenario that could really crush us?
Well, if we start talking about RG and the impact that the industry's approach to RG could have, and how that would impact the regulators, I think this is a very important place to start. If we're talking about Nostradamus and the ultimate decline of our industry, then if we continue the way that we're going, with our outlook towards RG, and the regulators do react strongly, then we could end up in a scenario where we're strangled to the point that we can't even grow our industry, that we can't impact it, and that ultimately we'll be the little boy sat in the corner who's just had his hand slapped. So we need to be, from my perspective, this is something that we can see. Okay, we're already seeing it. I think last weekend, Tane got a £17 million fine from the UKGC. I think Betfred got another one yesterday, from what I saw. So this is in front of us. It's not. We're not talking about 5-6 years time. This is genuinely. This is happening now, and it's something that we can take steps in order to alleviate and ultimately solve in the right way. And I truly believe that if we do it properly, we actually build more sustainable business and a more sustainable industry.
Equally, when you mentioned the news, this week we had the news of Twitch banning certain sites on stream, but I think we are looking at bigger. Billy, in our prep call, you mentioned we are one headline away from certain events. What kind of headline did you have in mind?
Well, I particularly appreciate Martin bringing up LG. I think he's spot on. I'm going to start a little calm and get fired up along the way, because there's 3 issues facing the industry globally, not just in my homeland. It's certainly innovation and the challenge of innovation. Much like the lotteries across the globe and horse racing, their players were aging out, and they need to innovate. And they're being dragged, kicking and screaming. 2 is payments. There are some folks in the payments industry here. The industry needs to figure out better, faster, and cheaper payment processes. And we know that that's coming, whether it's through, crypto-type exchanges, we'll see. But I believe the most important issue facing the industry globally is what Martin talked about, is responsible gaming. The newspaper headline I'm talking about is we're one newspaper headline away from some politician's son or daughter, mother, father, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, from getting harmed the way the land-based casinos across the globe treated gambling-addicted customers as VIP customers. We can't afford to do that. It sounds like a throwaway line. It may be something I invented while I was in the bathroom or the shower, but I mean what I say. We need to stay ahead of the regulators, particularly in America, where we're very nascent in our form. Those are the 3 issues, and RG is a serious one. And the problem, Karolina, the problem is that RG leads across the globe are not really at the big boy girl table. They come in, they give their 2 cents, some people snicker, and they walk out of the room. Because it's all about rev cycle, the commercials. And in order to have a sustainable industry, we need to understand our consumers better. So it's personalization, it's localization, and player protection. Those are the issues that threaten this industry the most.
Jamison, what's your thoughts on that? Because it's, I think, one thing to say we need to be more sustainable, this is a big threat, but what are the actual actions do we think we can take already now before we get to the point where the scenario is looming on us?
Well, there's all kinds of actions we can take and have to take. I mean, let's be real. We're not actually, these aren't scenarios that make this industry go away. They're scenarios that make us go away. The existing incumbents go away. RG doesn't make online gambling go away. It just makes everyone who currently works in the regulated markets and is a licensed entity go away. If regulatory crushes down and stamps out existing business practices to the extent that licensed operators get strangled in the crib and can't effectively operate, well, black market operators will be more than willing to pick up the slack. And then they become much more financially competitive, and that's a death spiral. So the question is how we avoid that. Obviously, with RG, I think that's by far the most really looming scary version of environmental collapse for this industry, because that's not to me Nostradamus, honestly. That's right around the corner. It's obvious. People are talking about it everywhere. We either figure that out in every market, or there will be catastrophic consequences for the incumbent players in this industry. Period. It's already in play. You can see it in markets all over the country, all over the world. Sorry. So that, I think, is one thing. I think the methods and the needs to actually address that for RG, they're there. It's not that there's not the RG people at the companies. It's not that people don't have ideas about how to do this stuff. But if RG plans and ideals are not actually incorporated into real financial plans, or if they're drafted by people who have no real understanding of how the industry actually operates on a financial basis, then they don't get incorporated, they don't get a voice at the table, and it's all lip service and people kick the can until that headline runs. And I think that headline comes in many different forms. I think the more Nostradamus things, there's other headlines that can come in. I don't think it's just RG that's a massive, interesting meteor flying to us. I think we face interesting competition from players outside the people in this room. Multinational corporations are dabbling. Disney's making loose comments about ESPN and sports betting. Amazon's playing around with lottery. What happens in 2034 if Apple launches the Apple Casino in Las Vegas? Unlikely? Yeah. What if it happened? What happens if a massive group of celebrities get together in Decentraland and open a real money casino with a 100% RTP and blockchain locked RG? Doesn't make the industry go away. Just makes us go away. So those are the kind of things that I think are fun to consider and think about how we would address.
Nico, you already have your experience stems mostly from a market in which the Nostradamus scenario has actually arrived to a certain extent. And you're also quite passionate about the big tech giants going into the industry and impacting the sports in ways that, to a certain extent, we can predict now, but we can't figure out how big are their visions. Which areas of the industry you think get impacted first if, like Jamison said, the big guys would come in?
So first of all, we already see the overall impact, right? Because in the end, our overall industry is relying on IT, right? And as soon as the Apples and the Googles finally decide on getting into our industry, right? They decide on which applications actually get the traffic. As of now, we're speaking about roughly 65-70% is mobile betting, right? Then you, of course, want to cater all your customers with an application. And as you have already pointed out, if Apple decides on opening up a casino, as of now we're all laughing. I don't think we will be laughing like 15 years, because then we're all gone, or we're all waving the surf with Apple as well. Going back to the US and like 6 or 7 years of time in the past, who would have thought that the US would open up in 2019, right? Which they did. As of now, as of today, we're speaking about 30 plus states opened up for sports betting, 6 plus states opened up for states. No one would have thought about this one. So in the end, the overall revenues have always been there. Right? They have always been there. We just need to make sure that they will stay in the light and don't go into the dark. Because the dark is just waiting. They don't care about RG, they don't care about AML, they don't care about nothing at all. They just want to, in the end, make it as easy as possible for the customers to actually have fun with an entertaining product. And as soon as they will be able to outperform each and everyone in the light, then everything and anything will shift into the dark side, right? So even the regulators should take this into account, that if you regulate, because these are the requirements for each and every licensable business, people who are actually willing to step into the light, to take their stand and to make sure things are going in the right direction, right? They will be drawn out of the market. In Germany, as of now, the Gambling Commission decides on which kind of markets we will be able to cater, right? From 200 plus markets per game, we are now allowed 60. No one actually thinks that a black market operator, they will still offer 200 markets. And these are the guys we're actually competing with. And this should also be taken into account from the regulator itself. Besides all the kind of political shifts which we already see in Italy, might be a strong right shift as well. All politicians usually just want to distract people from their own obligations. And blaming the gaming industry are always low-hanging fruits. And this is also something we need to take care of, especially as soon as it comes to advertisement banning of already licensed operators, because then people being interested in a product, an entertainment product, can't distinguish between, okay, this is a licensed entity and this ain't. So it will be fun being in the industry, and this just keeps us all awake, and it gets never boring, because as soon as you just realize, okay, we tackled this one, we're all on the same page, which is hard to realize, especially as it comes to RG, and we just see, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, like the initiatives the tier 1 operators are actually doing in the States, where they're like, okay, we want to keep our business out of that niche, because that niche, which we all grew up with, it just smells wrong, and you're always kind of blamed for all the worst things that can actually happen. But it's up to us to actually make sure that we cater our customers in the best way possible.
Let's take a scenario. Did you want to add something, Bill, to that?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Another scenario that we discuss is, on the opposite spectrum of the big tech giants coming in and taking over from us as an industry. We talked about what if the technology advanced, particularly blockchain, and the governments of the countries invested big time in being able to take out the operators who are not complying, and decided from now on, only monopoly-run gaming operations are allowed in each country, right? At the moment, it feels so unattainable because there is no technology to really blacklist those sites, and it's easy ways to go around it. But imagine advertising ban, total ban on commercial gaming operations, only monopoly government run offerings. Do you think that's ever possible? Do you think that is ever something we would have to worry about?
Anybody?
Well, there's a school of thought with the German situation at the moment that actually the entire scenario with Lugas and all the integrations that you have to do is actually working towards a duopoly. And if you look at the licenses that have been awarded, I think, Nico, 85% are to Merkur and Novomatic brands,
roughly.
right? So, and they're obviously the duopoly. So what we're saying here is that, okay, we don't see this in the future, but actually it's happening in front of our eyes. So I would love to understand what the German regulator response would be to an independent, i.e. non-duopoly brand, breaking one of their regulations. Will it be a 3 strikes and you're out? Will it be like you said, as soon as you do it, you're out and it's done, no questions asked? But Germany in particular is a great example of this already being in place. And you can already see within the most mature regulators that they're starting to twist the dial already on certain things. And in some cases, rightfully so. There's no question about it. We've discussed RG. In some cases, they're absolutely right to be doing what they're doing. But we need to find that balance. We need to find that balance where we as an industry are held to account for our actions, but at the same time, the customer experience is a positive one and it doesn't push them into the black and grey scenarios. the thing to think about here as well is that think about the next generation of people who are going to be utilizing our products. So I look to my kids, my oldest kid's 15, right? And then I see a product like micro betting coming out. You might have seen that in the States with Simple Bet and Better, the Better brand. And I think 365 have done something with them as well. So when that came out, I was like, well, what is this micro betting? And if you look at it, essentially it's a totally scaled down version of a sports book, okay, that allows you to bet on maybe 4 or 5 different elements, and generally in play. Now, this is exactly what that generation is looking for. They don't want all the bells and whistles with it. They want something really simple, right? And going back to my point, that experience, that goes into the other regulated areas as well. So obviously that's the interaction with the product itself, but actually how they want to be treated. They're more socially conscious. The generation is entirely different from us. They're 2 generations from us here, the majority of us sat in this room. So we need to think about these things and we need to get ready for it.
I think, Karolina, it's a horrible threat for any government to monopolize or create a duopoly in this industry. It doesn't work. Governments who try to run healthcare are barely able to do it in a sub-moderately successful way. Now, just so you understand where I come from, I'm a Democrat in the United States. I'm not a Trumpian. I'm a conservative Democrat. My father's a member of the U.S. Congress. That's my platform, my basis, my foundation of my principles and my ethics. If the federal government in the U.S. starts to dabble into gaming, we're in deep doo-doo. We'll be in the shitter before we know it. It's a horrible thing. But I wouldn't blame government. I would blame us if that happens. And the reason I would blame us is we have the ability to significantly advance and control to a degree our pathway forward. Let me give you an example. There are very few politicians that I have met that really understand the gaming industry. It's lunacy to tax us at rates that many states like New York and Pennsylvania have, and other jurisdictions. All that does is it incentivizes the black market. Heavier, inappropriate regulation, over-taxation, advertising restrictions and burdens do nothing but help the black market. And I also believe, I love what Martin walked us through, but I believe there are emergent technologies that are not yet there, but they're starting to dabble because the regulators are suspicious, that are IT companies that can help block the black market. Government has a job to do. Enforcement. Get enforcement right before you start to get, look what they've done in the lottery industry. No innovation, barely can run it. So, I don't like the cheapest entity to come in that will give the most money to the government, be the operator. It's a horrible idea.
Something that I think we also talked about in our prep call was imagine the industry finds a way to be more sustainable and have a more common focus on RG. Naturally, this will result in decrease in revenues. I mean, it's lunacy using words to think that it wouldn't, right? With that comes potentially job cuts, salary cuts. The industry at the moment as is a very well-paid industry. We offer tremendous opportunities to people across the globe. But if you couple those things, we start to make less money. Each company starts to make less money, therefore can afford less people, therefore can afford to pay them less. And on top of that, you've got the big tech giants coming in with their technology into the industry and starting to poach at our people. The development resources are already scarce. It's virtually impossible to scale tech teams fast at the moment. What happens when we no longer can afford the best people for technology, when we no longer can find developers to build the amount of games that currently each game provider is releasing. Is that enough to stall the industry?
It's enough to, it's enough to change the industry. Right? There is no industry that's immune from that. It's not just us. Right? Technologies change. New companies come in. Web3 is on the way. There are technologies in existence today, if the government actually used them, that could effectively block black market sites. And then they'd find some way around that, and then they'd find another way to block them, and vice versa. It's an ever ongoing evolution. There is no stopping point. Is it going to get more competitive? Yes. Is it going to get hard on existing financial models? Yes, the way that a company today is designed, if the vast majority of your focus is driving up revenue in a very small VIP target with very high range betting, which might suddenly be impacted by RG limits, right? So then you've lost a major portion of your revenue. Well, someone's going to get creative and figure out other ways to generate revenue. And the companies that figure that out are going to be filling this audience in a decade, right? I don't think this is anything new overall. It's happened to a dozen industries. It's happened to film and television. You know, right? Has film and television changed since the 80s? Yes, it has, drastically. The way they make money, the way they pay for content, the way they sell content. We will have to navigate those waters the same way.
Shelley, I want to direct a question at you as well when it comes to sort of casino products development and current ways of distribution. Do you think there is any scenario that could change that drastically, where, you know, the current power players would shift in the influence completely and sit in different places within a space of 2-3 years?
If I think back to when I moved into industry approximately 10 years ago, I remember one of the first big RG things that came in was UKGC, autoplay, all that good stuff. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, how much does this industry sit and argue about solutions for these things? Nobody's working together. So I was from a tech background, and I was like, where's the ISO standards here?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think if we're talking about Nostradamus and you know, potential disasters like Bill touched on before, and then margin squeeze from that, well, what's the best? Maybe going towards the margin squeeze and taking these things seriously. I think RG has been a checkbox, a side discussion. But what have we and back to your question, in casino products, in technology, really, you know, do what the government is perhaps pretending to do or think they can do, and we think ahead, and we do have that balance of entertainment for players, but not abusing. I talked about war before, I talked about economy. You know, ultimately, people are going to have less money. There's more risk of people making mistakes. What can we do? And that's from aggregators all the way through to operators. Proactivity, not reactivity. And I think that was my biggest observation in this industry when I started out.
All right. Nico, I want to ask you a question as well, because in the prep call we covered another aspect outside of the tech giants was the IP owners, right? That's also a threat, potentially quite a big disruption. You know, you've got the zone coming into this space and for the moment trying out small, but who knows where they're going to go in the next couple of years. What if the IP owners all of a sudden call complete monopoly on being able to offer bets on this content?
Yeah, so first of all, we're already seeing this, right? So if you just take a look, Amazon buying into the Thursday night game, paying $1 billion per year, and they have everything and anything exclusively. So they decide who actually is able to offer these kind of bets. As of now, they are going with DraftKings, but who gives anyone the security that by end of next year, someone at Amazon, you know, he or she just pulls out a pencil, draws some numbers, and then just realized, you know, as of now, we have an EBITDA margin of like 6 or 7%. If we just increase our kind of involvement into the betting industry, wow, our EBITDA margin goes up by 20%. That's a game I want to be part of. So what we all also see, especially with Disney, ESPN Plus, they have also exclusive rights to actually offer certain kinds of sports. There will be no sports betting without the underlying sports. It's pretty simple. So, and also we discussed this, and I'd like to quote you here, Karolina, come for the stream and stay for the betting, right? In the end, this is what it's all about. You want to be part of the excitement. This is also what Daniel Gretzer told this morning as well. So we always need to take into account who owns the rights of the underlying sports. And as soon as FIFA will realize, okay, we will exclusively offer, first of all, the data, the streams, to one and only sports betting company, guess what? I'm pretty sure this one will be the only sports betting company being able to actually, offer sports bets. So this might be a threat to the industry per se, but to all the players, except for the one who will be in the lucky position to actually being able to offer these kinds of sports. During another conference, I was asking Shay Sagaff as well, with the fight, potentially upcoming fight with Tyson Fury fighting AJ, Anthony Joshua. So they have exclusively Anthony Joshua as their kind of DAZN ambassador. And for sure, as of now, they are working so hard to get out the product, like the apps, because as soon as they get out the products, when they have the app-to-app calls from the DAZN, the OTT streaming services over to the sports betting app, this is when the magic just unfolds for the DAZN as well. He didn't answer it properly, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure with this one-of-a-kind, and everybody is watching this fight, date and sports, then you just want to be there, and they would be the only one actually being able to offer the pay-per-view, and then of course the bets as well. So I'm pretty sure they are so smart and they know how to play their cards, but especially in Germany, we can't offer that much of bonuses, like cash bonuses, but is kind of, if you place a $30 bet on the fight of Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, and you will be able to watch the PPV fight for free, is this considered as a bonus or not? But they will be playing that kind of cards, like any other right holder will play their cards as well. And this will be interesting to see. And if you just take a look, like who actually buys the rights, ATP, ITF, golf, who actually, joins the forces with them. These are 2 or 3 names as of now, right? It's Amazon, it's ESPN, and it's DAZN, which always pop up. And I'm pretty sure they will know why they specifically aim to get their rights, and they will just, use this for all their verticals.
Thank you. Thank you for that input. We have 8 minutes left, so I'm going to cover one last scenario that, again, we were talking about in this conversation. We're going to go some a bit more realistic, some totally sci-fi. Imagine, a situation where you have a larger group of hackers. At the moment, of course, every company faces a DDoS attack every now and then for ransom, bigger, smaller, depending on their size. But imagine that headline. There's something happens to the brother, sister, aunt, uncle, not to the politician, but to someone from Hackers Anonymous or something like that. And they decide they're going to take out gambling altogether. They're going to go by one and shut the sites down. Do you see that as a potential threat? And do you think as an industry we've got enough technology to be prepared for something like that, to be able to recover back up? Because, if they can shut down the embassies, they can shut down national health systems, they can shut down anything. Anyone?
They're already doing it with the power grid, right? So it's possible. And I believe that some of the larger companies are better suited. you know, look, I'm not here to promote any company, so I'm not going to mention names, but you all know who they are, the big server companies, the cloud companies that are massively out there. They're still existing, and Amazon's in the space now, right? So they've been nimble, and they've adjusted. You know, fortunately to date, we haven't had a big cybersecurity breach in the industry, at least that I'm aware of. And I think we're going to be okay, but the moment we think we're going to be okay is when the problem starts, right? So you have to constantly be ahead and innovating. And the problem is the margins are so thin in sports betting. And I think the best way to protect against the threats you've so eloquently outlined, and my dear fellow panel members have so articulately espoused, are all on the verge of the precipice if we can do a better job at educating politicians and regulators to understand we need them to be collaborators. We need them to be partners. There's ways to effectuate the black market better than we are. I mean, right now, it's a joke. Bodogs and the Bovados of the world, they'd be insane. I would think they were crazy if they tried to get into the regulated market. It's never going to happen, but why would they? No tax, no worries about RG or consumer protection, making massive money that we really don't know, we can estimate. So I think that that's pivotal to our future to prevent and block the Nostradamus happening.
Anybody else wants to add? Martin? Sorry to put you on
The
the
audience
spot.
are probably sat here thinking, oh my God, what's going on here? Like, what's going to happen in our industry? I think the topics that we've covered and the conclusions we've came to have been quite negative, I think, for dramatic effect. I myself, I'm eternally an optimist, and I think that we should understand that this is still in our hands. So it's not like climate change where it's gone and there's nothing much we can do about it. These situations we can still control. All of the three elements that Bill rightly outlined can be solved with technology, with innovation, okay, with thinking about it. I mean, even the example that you gave, Karolina, with regards to obviously the margins being cut entirely. If you even look back to the early 2000s, bwin were running a recreational business model way back then. So it's just a change, it's just a shift in mentality. So we have this in our hands in order to change it, and I think we should all be aware of that.
Well said.
Right, guys, we have 55 seconds left. I'm going to put you on the spot here and put you in a room with a whiteboard, and each one of you has a sticky note. On that sticky note, you're allowed to put one Nostradamus scenario that you think is the most dangerous of all the ones that we've discussed. Go.
RG.
That's pretty vague, but okay, let's take that. But you're not allowed to all say RG now. Well. Shelley.
I think it's back to what I said before, just not being proactive. And that could cover many things, disasters, whatever. Just don't forget to see what's right in front of you.
Bill.
Regulatory overreach.
Jamison.
Since RG and since those are taken, I will say.
You could just say ditto.
No, I'm going to go with competition from fully integrated multinationals coming in from totally outside the industry who are in search of an EBITDA gain that they can get from nowhere else in the world.
That's 3 Post-it notes.
We are vulnerable. Okay, outside competition. 2 words, 1 Post-it note, and I'm putting it on Bill's fridge.
Nico.
So, first of all, I go alongside with everything which has already been said. So
They're flashing the lights at me, so speed it up.
Yeah. It just gives me some time to think. No. So first of all, I would go for the external effects, right? As of now, we're seeing an inflation rate which is crazy. And if people actually need to decide, okay, whether I'm buying a piece of bread or I want to spend some money on, first of all, the zone and then the betting, I'm pretty sure the bread will win, right? So we should all calm down, because as of now, even with what's going on in Ukraine, you know, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So luckily, we will be all laughing in 1 year, sitting here once again at iGaming Next, and just saying like, okay, last year was the Nostradamus was just fun, and as of now, we're still sitting here. So fingers crossed this won't happen.
Never give Nico a sticky note is a lesson from that. Thank you very much for everyone participating in the panel. I hope we didn't freak you all out, especially those of you who are new to the industry. The industry is great, and we're going to do great things. So these are just Nostradamus predictions. Thanks very much.
Amen.